Hello, Assalamu alaikum, adab, and welcome to Goff Shoff with EjaySam. আমি EjaySam আর আজকে আমরা মেহমান আসুন সাদার উদ্দিন। আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
Assalamu alaikum and good evening to you all.
থ্যাংক ইউ। সো আজকের আসলে আমরা খুব একটা সৌভাগ্য যে আমরা সাদার বাইরে পাইছি। He's a very busy man, doing bits and bobs for the community, plus, like working hard, businessman. এটা আমার লাভ নাই, এটা বিস্তারিত আমরা থানা গেছে জানতাম পারমু একটু পরে। সো আজকের বিষয়, as you can probably notice, আজকে আমরা স্টুডিওর টেলিফোন নাম্বার আমরা দিছি না। এটার কারণ হয়েছে গিয়া যে because we have two topics, দুই টপিক আছে আমরা আলাপ করার আজকে। যেহেতু আমরা প্রথম অংশ আমরা এক সাবজেক্ট আমরা আলাপ করবো, আর সেকেন্ড অংশ আরেক সাবজেক্ট আমরা আলাপ করবো। আর আপনারা যদি কমেন্ট করুন, লাইক করুন, শেয়ার করুন, খুব অ্যাপ্রিসিয়েট করবো। তো সাদার ভাই, আজকে কোন বিষয় নিয়ে আলাপ করতাম?
জি স্যার, আজকে আমার মনে হয় প্রথম যদি আমরা আলাপ হইলাই যে fundraising সম্বন্ধে, community fundraising,
Okay.
মনে হয় ভালো হইব, কারণ this is an area that I'm working at the moment.
That's brilliant. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Let's do that then. So, right, okay. So just quickly before we go on to it, I just want to ask, about a little bit about yourself.
All right. It's a long story.
That's all right. We've got 2 hours.
Oh, that's a very long time actually.
Yes.
On air. What can I say? আমি তো আসলে north of England অনেক বছর ধরে থাকলাম, বিশেষ করে came to Burnley in East Lancashire in 1980, and then went to local school for about a year, local high school for a year, and then went to Burnley College বাদে আপনার এই সময় মনে আছে আপনার CSE আছিল, not GCSE, CSE,
yeah.
and then after CSE O level আছিল।
Yes.
যেহেতু বাংলাদেশ সামান্য লেখাপড়া হইয়া ইসলাম ক্লাস 8 পর্যন্ত, either so I found maths and a few other subjects quite okay beside the language itself। তো ভাষা শিখতে 1 বছর গেছে গিয়ে স্কুলে, এর বাদে বার্নি কলেজে গিয়া আপনার language as well as CSE start করলাম in 5 subject। তো কিছু লেখাপড়া হইলে আপনার এই সময় O level দেয়া, then all of my friends were going into restaurant business in terms of working there, so I thought, well, there's money there, so কিছুদিন লাগে আমার ইসলাম আসলে bro, and that was a mistake.
Restaurant only?
Yeah. And that was a mistake because I couldn't get out for a few years. And then while working in the restaurant actually, সবসময় আমি হইতাম, oh my god, this is not for me, আসলে সবসময় মনে হইতো I need to do something better than that, so eventually started going to college again part-time while working। তো ওদের সব কিন্তু আমি আবার বাংলা GCSE দিছি, A levels দিছি, yeah, এর বাদে I did some other qualifications like a diploma, HNC, গুলাকে eventually went to do some courses in community interpreting। So again, up to a diploma level of interpreting, I did some interpreting for a while and then managed to get a job with the Bangladesh Welfare Association in Burnley for 3 years, which was council funded। Then worked there for about 3 years and then managed to get a job in housing, which is unexpected really, because I landed accidentally in housing, but I
accidentally
yeah actually interest আছিল সবসময়, because part of my welfare advice work, Burnley, housing was a big element of that, was a big subject at that time। আপনারা যারা নর্থ তখন জানরা যে হাউজিং ক্রাইসিস আছিল কোনের সময়, আমরা মানুষের খুব ছোট ছোট করে থাকতাম, ঠান্ডা, এর বাদে আপনার সেন্ট্রাল হিটিং হোক নাই, উইন্ডো বেশি ভালো নাই, A lot of people were suffering from bad quality housing.
Just quickly, I'm here. Where was on Ice on Live. Thank you, viewers. After a comment for that, I'm quickly. I'm do a comment for Ilay. Lenny Sayawida Salam Bhai. Walaikum Salam. Abu Isma. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. Salam Bhai. Thank you. Thank you. Ehon amar khashir huye gese. So if I start, like coughing, please mind korban afnara. Jomir Maya Salam Dison. Walaikum Salam. Abdul Mukit Miao Salam Dison. The whole Salam Dison to Afatoto Afnara Ikitahoruka. Jomir Maya Huida. Need to put the mic closer. At the moment, unfortunately, we can't. We it's a little bit too technical for me, so I'll just stick with it for the time being.
Yeah, maybe if we get a bit forward, then that might be more useful.
No, it's fine. It auto adjusts.
Okay.
Yeah. So sorry, you were saying, sir.
Yeah. So basically, আমরা especially Asian community, not necessarily just Bangladeshi community, Asian community অনেক মানুষ যারা were suffering from bad quality housing, and then access to proper good quality housing was another issue. So with that in mind, applied for a job in Rochdale, and managed to get a job with the local authority in housing services, and this is where I know you from, Mr. Salam.
I was about to put that in, but okay, fine.
And worked for the local authority about 4 years, and then managed to climb up the ladder to senior officer, and then I was seconded to Asian Housing Association for a job in Rochdale. As you know, at that time there was a lot of regeneration work was going on in the canal side area of Rochdale. আর ওখান থেকে আসলে housing career আরম্ভ হয়. So I was a project officer for all the new build houses on Oldham Road.
Yes.
In between, on both sides of the canal. So then I was stuck in housing for nearly 25 years. Moving on from one job to another. And a good portion of my job was to attract funding from various funding bodies, including different government departments. And mashallah, I've been successful getting a lot of money for the organization I used to work for. And then he ended up, as a regional manager with Great Places Housing Group, managing different projects throughout Northwest, far as Sheffield, Fylde Coast, Cheshire, and up to Stoke-on-Trent.
That's covering a lot of space,
yes.
a big area. So essentially, you've been involved in community work for better part of the last 30 years.
In a way, yeah, almost.
Mashallah, mashallah. That's a very noble cause.
Thank you.
Right, going on to tonight's main topic, we'd be discussing various ways of setting up community interest groups, which essentially means that groups are set up to benefit the community in general, which can involve education, training, heritage, culture and heritage, also like various different projects as well. So we'll touch on that later on. So just quickly going on to a set of questions, because sometimes I go off tangent, start like bogar on a different way, and I lose the plot at times. So just quickly, like in order to apply, do you need to be a registered charity for funding, or?
Well, I think the funding business, or the funding nowadays, which is managed by various funders, is well regulated. Well regulated meaning that some of it is most of it is public money, so therefore it needs to be regulated. Some of it from private trust, rich people, for example. So because it needs to be regulated, therefore what the funders would like to fund his project coming from a registered charity or a company.
Okay.
However, you don't necessarily have to be registered charity,
Okay.
because as long as an organization's aim is voluntary, philanthropic,
Yes.
charitable, then you can apply for funding from various sources.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
In terms of the community interest companies, again, if the project is charitable, then yes, you don't necessarily have to be a registered interest company. As long as it's charitable is fine. But charity, the community interest companies, obviously it benefits the project, benefits the community as well as individuals who are involved.
Acha. So, from this point onwards, আমরা চেষ্টা করব একটু বাংলা হওয়ার কারণ অনেক গ্রুপ হল আসলে আর কি মানে সবে আসলে ইংলিশ পুরা মতে বুঝরা না আমরা ইউজুয়ালি আমরা প্রোগ্রামে আমরা mix kori. Bilingual to there are remix here and a remix there.
That's fine. Sorry, apologies.
No, that's fine. It's good. Partially it's my fault because questions against English obviously it's a prompt that you would answer in English as well. যেখানে একটা অর্গানাইজেশনের ইনফ্রাস্ট্রাকচার আছে মানে yeah. Right, we're back on. Hello, we're back again. Today একটু গড়বড় হয়ে গেছিল কি little bit গড়বড় as they say. আমরা ইন্টারনেটে কিছু সমস্যা হয়ে গেছিল, so hopefully you can see us. Can you see us? If you comment and let us know. It looks like we're moving about, so that's good. Yeah?
Well, certainly you got a comment about your haircut.
Yeah. Right, okay. So, where were we? Before the interruption happened, আমরা broadcast interruption হইবার আগে আমরা আলাফা আসলাম যে অর্গানাইজেশন আমরা যে সংস্থা আছে সংস্থার একটা ইনফ্রাস্ট্রাকচার মানে এটার গঠন কিরকম হওয়া লাগে অ্যাপ্লাই করার আগে
ওটা হইতাম চেষ্টাম মানে apologies for the interruption here. তো হইতাম যে কোনো একটা অর্গানাইজেশনের বা একটা গ্রুপের মোস্ট ইম্পর্টেন্ট থিং হইল যে গঠনতন্ত্র থাকতে হইব, যেমন একটা কনস্টিটিউশন থাকতে হইব. You should have a management committee in place, preferably more than 7 people, but minimum I would say 7 is recommended, with at least 3 officers who would be the chair, secretary and a treasurer. A bank account is a must. Definitely bank Niger.
নাইলে তো মানে ফান্ডিং অ্যাপ্লাই করলে কোনো নাকি জমা হইতো
bank account থাকতে হইব এবং যে 3 জন সিগনেচারি থাকবা কি they must not be related. So basically chairman, secretary এবং treasurer 3 জন
আত্মীয়র মাঝে হইতো
পারতো না, কারণ যদিও আর কি at some stage funders of the then obviously it's a conflict of interest.
Yes.
One thing. Secondly is the regulatory body would prefer to deal with people who are not related, basically, because public funds involved. Therefore, it's better to keep that clear. After the local policy procedure in place, that most funders would want to know আপনার equal opportunity policy আসেনি, আপনার fundraising policy itself আসেনি, কোনো organizational constitutional ভিতরে লেখা থাকে that they are allowed to do fundraising, for example, apply for funding and so on. So এরকম কি কিছু infrastructure থাকতে হয় in place. আর যদি well established organization থাকে, then they more likely will have a history of obtaining funding from various sources, which is a good thing. But there's a big but, which is যে সময় আপনারা ফান্ডিং আনলা পাবলিক সেক্টর থেকে বা প্রাইভেট সেক্টর থেকে বা ট্রাস্ট হল থেকে, please make sure that you do end of project report back to them to say that project has been a success, it's been delivered on time, you have spent all the money, you produced an annual account, annual report, and so on, and then the file then get closed once they are satisfied with yourself that you have delivered the project. By doing all this, you're leaving yourself in a green light situation. Yeah? So next time when you apply, there won't be much checklist to check in terms of your
compliance 100%.
100%
compliance.
It's a good organization to fund. So funders will be funders all the tara they will be keen to support you again. It may have to be different project, but tara আপনার support করবো আর যদি আপনার এগুলা দেখ না কি then you may place yourself in an amber or a red light situation, which means that it's a no-go area for funders.
Okay.
Yeah. Either you haven't delivered.
একটা লিস্টই আছে ওই লিস্টের মধ্যে নাম লাগাইলা মানে বাজে খাতা আর জিন্দেগিত ফাইতা না মাল মশলা
কিবা যে you couldn't deliver the project in time, or didn't spend the money, or there has been some kind of issues with your project. Sometimes not necessarily because it's your fault. It could be due to the nature of the area where you work. But do keep them informed of any issues or problems.
Just a quick one. আমরা মিজানুর রহমান ভাইয়ে মিজানুর রহমান ভাই, thanks for watching. তাই একটা মানে দারুণ একটা question pose করছেন. When us Bengalis do a সংগঠন, all the officers' titles seem like a new government is forming. For example, Education Secretary, Sports Secretary, etc., etc. It actually to go as I'll just speak for like from my experience with various different organizations. You're absolutely right. And আমরা বিভিন্ন ধরনের সেক্রেটারি হল আমরা অ্যাপয়েন্টিং করি, এটা আসলে ডিপেন্ড করে আমরা যে সংগঠনটা উইলো এটা এই সংগঠনটা খিতা করবো, খিতা ডেলিভার করবো। আর যদি ডেলিভারি যদি এটা চাহিদা থাকে তাইলে তো it's a necessity, এটা দরকার। আর কোনো কোনো সংগঠন হয়তো আছে যে আপনার সেক্রেটারি, ভাইস সেক্রেটারি, ছোট সংগঠন, সেক্রেটারি, ভাইস সেক্রেটারি, চেয়ারম্যান, ভাইস চেয়ারম্যান, এরপরে আছে না যে সহ সভাপতি, ভাইস চেয়ারম্যানের লগে আরো একজন ভাইস চেয়ারম্যান।
Actually, by Namgita Mizanur Rahman, he is 100% right, and this is what normally happens in Bengali organizations, because organization khora age amra plan thake very big.
Yes.
Yeah. But when it comes to delivery and the actual the real crunch when things needs to happen, এই সময় দেখা যায় যে এটা পোস্ট একটা কোনো খাজেন নাই. Yeah, I'm sorry to say this. But in that case, what happens? Nayajiri organization jagula Israel Bonet Dahram with a real purpose, real motivation behind to do something different in the community. Igula Dahage Sebai, those three posts in Aruhailam, those are the key important posts for governance reason to start with that you must have. আর বাকি যে পোস্টগুলো আপনি মেনশন করছেন ভাই, যেমন স্পোর্টস সেক্রেটারি, এডুকেশন সেক্রেটারি, my advice would be not to have those big titles at the beginning of the organization and that person thinks that's everything. Igula na hoida. If there are any programs in terms of sports, education, religious education, whatever, right, give them a title, things like a volunteer coordinator responsible for A, B, and C, right? That way they won't think they're the sports minister and education minister. That way you make somebody responsible to volunteer. Obviously we're all giving our own time.
Yes.
We are volunteer for a purpose, and the purpose is that project only.
আরেকটা জিনিস very important, for example, যে কোনো একটা জিনিস করতে গিয়া একটা ব্যবসায়ী করুকা আর সংস্থা গঠন করুকা বিজনেস প্ল্যান।
Yes.
বিজনেস প্ল্যান হচ্ছে ভেরি ইম্পর্টেন্ট আমার দৃষ্টিতে, ও কারণে আর কি বিজনেস প্ল্যান থাকলে আপনার একটা দৃষ্টি থাকে, ভবিষ্যতের একটা দৃষ্টি থাকে, আপনি আসুন কোন জায়গা আর যাইতা কোন জায়গা। So it actually sort of plot maps
and
your
on the journey,
your
what
journey.
you need to do.
Yes.
Yeah. Business plan tikase. I do agree with you. But in terms of when it comes to funding, Nadi, when I say business plan, as an organization, you can have an organization and a business plan that's great. But when it comes to applying for funding, suto funded like a business plan is anything above 100,000. For example, if you go for a big lottery funding and it's a 3 years project or a 5 years project, they will require a business plan. And it's in your own interest to have a business plan for 3 years or 5 years, prescribing in a way what you're going to do, like you said, what are the intentions are, what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. But for small funding, I wouldn't encourage groups or organizations
to think too deep into that.
Don't spend too much time writing business plans.
Okay, thank you, Sadar bhai. Our next question we got, মানে এককভাবে কেউ apply করতে পারবে গ্রান্টর লাগি?
Yes or no? On some instance, yes.
Okay.
Individuals can apply. You can apply, and I'll give you a few examples. If you are a student, after you're a student and you're not not necessarily from a rich family background or hasn't got millions of pounds to spend money on things. So in a situation, part of your degree course or you're studying something, need to do a bit of research, and that involves going abroad perhaps, or even here, then there are funds that you could apply for, classed as individual funds. In sports, if you are from quite impoverished background, and then can't afford to buy a pair of boots, for example, and the other piece that you require for your sports activities.
Obviously, এগুলো তো result based, আপনার দক্ষতা বুঝিয়ে।
Individual funds, দক্ষতা বুঝিয়ে টিকো। আর হইছে গিয়া যেমন ফেরতার বা individual funding এর লাগে apply যেমন disabled people, right? একটা funds আছে small amount, not a lot of money. কোনো সময় আছে যে because of your disability, certain employers cannot employ you because they haven't got the infrastructure to support you while you are in employment. In a situation like that, an individual can apply for a grant to make that thing happen. Adaptations, alterations, or in a classic example, যেমন একজন মানুষের যারা খানে শুনেন না, নানি, in a emergency, and or in an emergency, after fire bell বাজছে, নানি, তাই না, so installing a flashing light, things like that. Something called access to work, that the individuals can apply. So in a situation like that, yes. But for community work, something that the public job are going to benefit from, then the approach will be a group or an organization.
Thank you. Again, like দর্শকবৃন্দ, আপনারা যদি ব্যক্তিগত কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে বা যদি আপনারা ইচ্ছা থাকে কোনো কমিউনিটি গ্রুপ বা সংস্থা কিছু আপনারা গঠন করতে বা বিস্তারিত জানতে চাই ফান্ডিং সম্বন্ধে, আপনারা আমার সাথে যোগাযোগ করবা। যোগাযোগ করলে পরে ইনশাআল্লাহ আমরা সাদার ভাইয়ের কন্ট্যাক্ট দিয়ে দিব। তাই অনেক সংগঠন তাই হেল্প করছেন, তো আশা করি আপনারাও কিছু হেল্প করতে পারবা। আর প্লাস আপনারা আমরা এখানে কমেন্ট করিও, আপনারা যদি কোনো কোয়েশ্চন দেখা করতে পারবা। তো again going on to the next question, কোন ধরনের প্রজেক্ট হতে লাগে আমরা অ্যাপ্লাই করতে পারি? তখন মনে করুক আমরা গ্রুপ হিসাবে, আপনার তো এককভাবে কিতা অ্যাপ্লাই করা একটা ব্রিফ আইডিয়া দিছ, তো আমরা গ্রুপ হিসাবে আমরা কি ধরনের প্রজেক্ট হতে লাগে অ্যাপ্লাই করতে পারি?
এটা প্রত্যেকটা গ্রুপের বা অর্গানাইজেশনের এইমস এন্ড অবজেক্টিভস আছে। যেমন a classic example would be if a group is a social housing tenants group
Okay.
in a big estate somewhere. Tara objective that we want to empower our tenants to get involved in local community issues.
For example, cleaning,
Cleaning, landscaping, or window dressing
Yes.
to make the estate look
Look
nice and so
yeah.
on. In a situation like that, Tara we only need about £5,000 to put a lot of window baskets
Yeah.
in our estates.
Yeah.
In a situation like that, Tara Niger Housing Association বা local authority approach করতে পারেন, or there are a lot of external funding আছে এগুলা এরকম কাজ করার অনেক environmental funding আছে that particular idea comes from environmental background.
Okay.
Therefore অনেক environmental funds আছে যেটা লাগে apply করতে পারবা. Groups such as most of the Bangladeshi organization যেমন Bangladeshi organization হলতে অনেক সময় আছে যে apply করেন funding to deliver 1 year, 2 year, 3 years long projects. Yeah. And I'll give you a classic example of some recent success. যেমন একটা elderly people, their group, they want to set up a luncheon club. Yeah. For luncheon club, to aya boya 1 ghanta 2 ghanta hali khaile to roito na. But the idea was, while the food is getting ready, they wanted to do some activities. Yeah. Meaningful activities that are shobe bala haiba. So with that in mind, we applied for an awards for all application together from Big Lottery. And the idea of that project was to, while je manche barsa rakhani radio ije 1 ghanta ba 1.5 ghanta tara inu bata soin tara Goff Shoff korba like we doing now, je tara জীবন কাহিনী সম্বন্ধে ইদেশ আইবার আগে তারা ক্লাস লা কিতা হরতা ইদেশ আওয়ার বাদে how they landed in the north, in Rochdale, Oldham, Tameside, Manchester, and not to a khas class kita horsen ta har ବ୍ୟବস্থা class. It's like a bit of documenting their lifetime experience in UK when they came here first.
Yeah, sharing experiences.
Sharing experience and then documenting it. আমরা তো মাইতে দিয়ে আপনি আমার এক কিছু নাই না আমি হতে বাদে বলে যাব. So idea was to document it. Yeah. So আপনার লাইফ কাহিনী ডকুমেন্ট করইলো আপনি নিজে লেখতে পারেন না, help will be available there to write it down. And the whole idea was that we produce a booklet at the end of this project, collecting people's stories. Yeah. And that becomes like a history of individuals who could be archived in the library or use this as a storytelling kind of project to children at school.
Okay, that's a good example. Next question is
sorry, going back to what kind of project, all depending on the organization objective এবং what they want to do locally in their neighborhood. অনেক ধরনের প্রজেক্ট করা চাইলে করতে পারবা, যেমন at the moment there's a lot of issues about welfare advice. Citizen Advice Bureau is the only advice giving organization recognized and publicly funded throughout the UK. There's not many community-based organizations doing this anymore. It's a specialist work. You need to have certain qualifications and ability to do so.
right.
And there's not much projects going on around welfare advice within our communities. So things like that, you could apply for project up to 3 years, 3 to 5 years. Young people, looking at your young people needs and demands and aspirations. So a project gets developed with, based on people's needs at local level. So local people, the groups and organizations who are based locally, I think they will know better what is needed within their own communities.
Okay, so that's a pretty good, sort of a non-biased look at the extremes. For example, under elderly থেকে তুই আমরা youngsters পর্যন্ত মানে I would imagine অনেক জনে মানে কোয়েশ্চন সাধারণত করে আমরা নিম্নে কত অ্যাপ্লাই করতাম পারবো আর ঊর্ধ্বে কত অ্যাপ্লাই করতাম পারবো এটার কোনো নিম্ন মানে একবারে লোয়েস্ট কোনো একটা ফিগার আসেনি বা হাইয়েস্ট ফিগার আসেনি
Yes, I say, obviously, when you're applying for external funding, you're not going to go for £5 or £10, are you? More likely, you're going to for something bigger.
Yeah.
And all depending on the funders too, because one extra way I say, the kunu funder of the tara hoy, the minimum or maximum patula you have to apply for that. Yeah. So I'll give you an example of awards for all again from Big Lottery. The awards for all will get maximum 10,000. 10,000 আপনি apply করতে পারবা আর minimum 500 so আপনার যে project cost আছে total cost এটা within that figure থাকতে হইব minimum 500 and maximum 10,000 and এই 10,000 যদি maximum 10,000 লাগে apply করেন তে sometime with this kind of funding আপনার match funding কোনো দরকার নাই they will fund you 100%. As the match funding current, then that means you are improving your chances of getting the funding.
match funding যারা হইলা match funding টা কিটা
Match funding হইলে গিয়া যেমন সালাম ভাই আপনি যদি আমারে 10 টাকা দেন বলে 10 টাকা আমি দিলাম বাকি ফুরাই আপনি কিছু লইলেন জানো
আচ্ছা
in plain বাংলা ভাষা ওটাও যে আমি দিলাম কিছু আপনারা আপনি বাকি ফুরাইয়া খাবার হইলেন জানো ওকে সো match funding ওটাও যে কোনো ফান্ডার অনেক ফান্ডার আছে তারা 100% দেয় আর কোনো ফান্ডার আছে কইব যে we can only give you 50% or 45% and good example was the European funding the European ESF funding European Social Fund যেটা or European Social Fund you could get maximum of 45% you know ERDF, European Regional Infrastructure Fund, যেটা আছিল, এটা 50%. So the remaining money had to come from
other
the
sources.
applicant, from the other sources, yes. Where you get it from, they don't want to know, as long as there is much funding available. আর অনেক ফান্ডিং আছে Northwest যে much funding লাগে না. Most of the lottery funding in UK, much funding লাগতো না. A lot of the trust and charities who gives funding কোনো সময় আছে community groups like much funding লাগে না it will be nicely prescribed in their policy.
my apologies আমার এই খাসি এখনো রইছে সোমবার অনুষ্ঠান আমি এইতাম পারছিলাম আমার আসলে চেস্ট ইনফেকশন একটা হয়েছে আর যেটা সাধারণত আমরা মহিলা বলতে সাধারণত মান ফ্লু I'm still suffering from man flu, so please excuse my coughing.
Never heard of that before, man flu.
Oh man, if you had female colleagues, you'd get the brunt of it.
Okay.
Right, thank you very much for that. Again, after all, মানে কয়েকটা মেজর ফান্ডারের নামও হই দিছুন আমি কেন again আপনারা আমি মানে এই হইতাম চাইলাম যে যদি আপনারা কোনো প্রজেক্ট থাকে মনের মাঝে বা কোনো কিছু করতেছেন কমিউনিটির লাগে আপনারা এলাকার যেখানেই থাকুক না কেন তো ইচ্ছে হলে আপনারা আমরা সাথে যোগাযোগ করতে পারবা আমরা অনুষ্ঠানের মানে অর্ধেক অংশ শেষ পর্যন্ত আমরা এই কন্ট্যাক্ট ডিটেলস দিব না আপনারা যোগাযোগ করতে পারবা সো মানে 1-to-1 হিসেবে আপনারা একটা কনসালটেশন করতে পারবা খালি এই প্রোগ্রাম আছে আমরা খালি বেসিক্স আমরা কভার করবো সো দ্যাট অনেকজনের যারা জানুন না কিছু জানার সুযোগ থাকলো আর মনে হল্লা যে কিছু করতে চাইলে করতে পারবা এনে একটা কমেন্ট আইছে আমরা আবু ইসমাইল হইলা a lot of organizations have abused the funding system and the only people that benefit are the people who are involved. You are absolutely right, Abu Ismail. I can't argue with that. In the past, I've also, dealt with some scandals. and I'm sure Sadar Bhai has seen some, and it's because of those people. It's because of those people um, that the checks and the whole process of the application is a little more stricter, so that there's more accountability. Am I right in that?
I think so, because there may have been issues like this before.
I know of a couple,
Gigi,
but I'm
not saying there isn't.
Yeah.
But brother, at the end of the day, I think Zara genuinely amra involved in community work, who wants to see the difference in the community, wants to make sure that their neighbor or people around them benefits from everything.
I think most of our past would actually speak for itself, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
If you spent a better part of 30 odd years, doing community work or making sure that our community, members of our community who are a little worse off than we are, gain equal access to, all the facilities out there, then, people like yourself wouldn't abuse the system. I myself, did a bit from since '87. So, আমি আমার কথা বললাম, আমার ইন্টারেস্ট আছে যে হলে ফার আমরা পাইতাম না এখানে আমরা যেন মুরব্বী নাশনাল আসলা তারা ওকে language barrier আছিল. Yeah, and my belief was that if there's something available for Tom, Dick and Harry, why can't Ali Ulan Mir access that? And that was my driving force behind helping people try and access or maximize what they do.
I think it's a valid comment from
of course
Abu
yeah.
Ismail. There may have been issues like this in our community.
Yes.
And as a result, I think Bangladesh কথা আছে না যে সুরের 7 দিন যদি হয় আর 7 দিন একদিনে হয় আর কি, that's good enough to get things sorted. When it comes to funding and community-based organization, you see, community-based organizations weren't that regulated. Neither funders were that much tough regulated before.
True.
I think we live in a time where funders are funding the toilet, they will see your history.
Yes.
They will see where you are transparent or not, whether you will have all the system in place or not. You will have to audit